There is an Eve in all women, and there is an Adam in all men. As an Eve, I have felt embarrassed for the female sex since I was a child and first learned of Eve's misdeeds regarding the original sin. Learned that in Bible school, where we were taught that Eve ate of the fruit of knowledge, then she convinced her husband to do the same. It was weak and it was wrong. That's what we were taught happened. Womankind have been labeled and punished as the wicked temptresses who convinced the Adam in all men to partake in forbidden knowledge. By default, all women have become the condemned and the damned, for betraying all of mankind. 4,000 years later, we have yet to live down this original sin. I'm sure most already know of the original sin from Sunday school Bible lessons we learned as children. As an adult, however, I heard with adult ears a twist in the story. It came to me while watching a YouTube video. I picked up on a particular turn of phrase that you would have to be old enough to remember. There are, in fact, 6 billion people who perhaps wouldn't know this one play on words simply because they're too young to remember. You see, there was once a time when manners mattered, and adults did not discuss bedroom things in front of children. When one adult wanted to be explicit about a woman having sex with a man out of wedlock, there was a particular catchphrase that was always used. Although that same underlying subtext of conversation would be lost on 6 out of 7 people today, there was a time when the catchphrase went something like this: she knew him in the biblical sense. You know, the word knowledge, that's a funny word. Knowing someone can have 2 different meanings. I had heard the same story since childhood, but this time I heard something different. I could hear a discreet translation in the subtext. I was what they call reading between the lines. Eve partook of the tree of knowing. Of course, it just clicked like the sound you hear as you snap in the last piece of a puzzle. The sound is quite unique, and it only occurs once the entire puzzle is complete. Eve knew Satan in the biblical sense. The Bible itself was hiding the true meaning of the word know behind an innocent-sounding play on words. There it was, Bible code words. Had I broken a simple Bible code? At one time, adding the words in the biblical sense made the terminology spoken to another adult mean explicit, X-rated fornication, lovemaking between 2 people. When the Bible itself, and that's pretty much in the biblical sense from the get-go, states Eve knew a serpent in the Garden of Eden, then it's a natural presumption to conclude that Eve knew that reptile sexually. She did more than eat of the fruit of knowledge. You can't get pregnant from oral sex. She partook in sexual relations with the fruit or seed of Satan, the snake. How do I know they had sex? The answer is sins of the father. Allow me to back up. We know the Bible itself states Eve partook of the tree of knowledge, or that she ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. There's lots of different interpretations of the Bible, but still, knowing someone in the biblical sense used to mean precisely what it was saying in the Bible. Eve knew Satan, the serpent, in the sexual sense. Now, I repeated that on purpose. The missing interpretation, one that is blindingly staring at us in the face, is that in fact Eve was raped by a reptile. This was not a parable, but the story of a real crime which took place 4,000 years ago. Eve was not some willing subject just wanting to break the laws of the land and cheat on her husband. she was raped. Eve was horribly defiled by a shape-shifting reptile who left her cold, naked, and wanting for clothing to cover the shame she felt once she realized the mistake that she had made. The error was that she mistook a shape-shifting entity for her husband and innocently submitted to someone whom she thought was her spouse. Eve committed no crime. This was not the original sin. This was the original crime. Yes, women are beautiful temptresses, and they can cause such desire. But then again, so can any man. Yet for women, the stigma remains entirely sexist and one-sided. What a man gets away with and is rewarded for, a woman is labeled a slut for duplicating. Even the term walk of shame denotes the seedy feeling of embarrassment for having sex out of wedlock. Women have been punished for millennia because we forgot how to interpret words that were meant for an adult's ears to hear. The words in the Bible were as transparent as possible without vulgarity. Perhaps the vulgarity needs to be brought to the surface and to the forefront of biblical knowledge. In the very least, it could be a catalyst to a paradigm switch. Women would not be looked down upon as the evil temptress and the seductress always tempting mankind. Instead, Eve would be rightfully respected as the innocent victim of the crime of all time. In our past, a rape victim used to be looked down upon as a person who instigated the assault. We've learned so much since those days. This cold case must be revisited with adult ears for the same reason. Is this interesting? Would you like more? Then you'll have to tell me. Please do a thumbs up or subscribe. Or how about this? Do both. That's always fun. But you have to let me know you want to hear more. I'll get the message. Thanks.